Hi and welcome. I'm here to do a recap of my series, Nurture Your Personal Peace. It's a 4 video series, and there are just a few highlights I'd like to talk about. Um, the bottom line is, I'm giving you tips, practices, methods, things to try on and see if they work to manage the brain the way neuroscience has discovered so far that the brain works. What we need to do to produce the good feeling chemicals, and in the same time, what physical actions send messages up to the brain that are supportive of how the brain works. Because obviously, things work totally together. We know this. In the dark ages, we did. But one of the reasons that I did this series is that our brains really want to stay busy with fear-based scenarios, fear-induced. You know, what's what not what's possible, but what will probably never happen. So that comes from the fight or flight response, and it's evolved over millions of years. We know this, and a lot of the threats aren't current, but we do have to deal with the negativity that comes from that. Even though we've evolved to be thinking individuals, we still have that within the brain structure. So if we adopt habits that work with how the brain manages itself to release the good endorphins, and we work with the body to create actions, physical actions, and activities that trigger the brain to bring us good things, then we are balancing this natural proclivity for negativity, which many of us deal with. And again, I'd like to say fear is imagination poorly used. When you become fearful, turn it around. Is this really going to happen? Is this worth my time thinking about it? How do I know this is true? Do I really know it's true? Just move out of that territory and just understand that that's the way the brain works. Most of your thoughts are going to be negative. And I talk about that in that video. Change your vocabulary, change your path. There are a lot of ideas about how to manage your vocabulary, because your vocabulary triggers certain reactions in your brain and certain bodily sensations, stress for one, and how to turn that around. The third video is embrace your emotional flow. And the emotions are so very important. Once again, they are created in the brain. We'll always have them while we're in physical form. So we need to deal with them. They need to keep flowing to be healthy, or they get stuck in the body. So I have given several ways for us to keep them flowing. And always number one is awareness and looking at your emotions as helpful messengers. They're there to tell you uh, maybe how to change your perspective on them, and I have exercises to do that, and or how to change your procedure to turn these emotions into helpful messengers. Their emotions tell us who we are in the world. We get to know ourselves through emotions. And so we're all very, very different. And tuning into our emotions lets us know what we like, what we don't like, which path to take. Very, very, very important. And so embrace really your emotional flow and mainly keep it moving. And journaling is a very powerful way to do that. I introduced you to dominant, non-dominant journaling, with the dominant hand, the hand you usually write with, writing questions, and the non-dominant hand that you don't normally write with is the non-dominant, and you would answer the questions writing with that hand. One thing I didn't emphasize, and I want to now, is it's great if you can have two different color markers when you're doing this dominant, non-dominant journaling. I mentioned Pennybacker, just straight journaling, as long as you're tuning into your emotions and your feelings, very healing. Many studies on that. Um, but reflection of how you're actually feeling, how it affects you, is far more productive as far as keeping your emotions flowing than making a factual record. This is not a report of your daily activities. It is how you're engaged in them and what emotions came up. That type of journaling, just straight journaling like that, is great as well. But the dominant, non-dominant is really quite fun, because the non-dominant hand can be writes much slower because it's not used to writing, and it is really your intuition, your inner child speaking, and you can get very surprising childlike answers, funny misspellings. So it's kind of a magical process. I think you'd like to try it. It'd just be great. And then the last one, wipe out stress with play. I review different types of play that are effective, and how play is absolutely essential for our creativity and innovation, and that adults especially need to revisit the need for that. So often when we become adults, we don't think of taking time to play, and it is very important to keep our stress levels, anxiety down, keep the brain working in a proper manner. So you've got lots of ideas about play and a couple of exercises on that. So I hope you enjoy them. I hope you try some of the exercises. I hope that some of them become part of your life, and that you notice that there's a difference in your attitude and in your point of view, your perspective toward life and toward yourself, of self-care, kindness, and speaking to yourself. Because we only go around once, and we need to honor ourselves. So take the time to institute some of these and see how it goes. Take the time for you, and definitely take the time to play. View this all as play that's very serious play, because it's your life and it has the potential to improve it tremendously in many areas. Okay, that's it. Thanks for tuning in again. I'll be back.